If anybody, by the way, listening right now is interested in hearing someone other than me talk about this from a different perspective, I'm talking about this right now from the perspective of a caster, and I'm talking about players as well. But I think someone who did a pretty good job explaining the topic of affirmative action, because that's what we're talking about here. We're taking an action to give more exposure to groups that are underrepresented. That's what we're talking about. And someone who does a really good job talking about this is Ravina, who streams on Twitch. But she was guest on a podcast that I did with Smellsworth. I think it's on the Saltcast YouTube channel. I'm going to look for it. If I find it, I'll link it in chat. It is, okay. Okay, I find it. So yeah, if you guys want to, if you haven't watched the podcast that we did with Ravina, and you want to hear her, she's a women's carball world champion. She's a very good Rocket League player, SSL. And she's very well spoken on the challenges that women face in the esports scene, particularly in Rocket League and gaming as a whole. And just all around an awesome person. But yeah, she is very good at explaining her perspective on why affirmative action is important in the Rocket League space. So if you want to listen to that, I'd recommend it. Give that link a click. Save it as a tab for later. And yeah, that radish is pretty nice, right? Delicious. But yeah, the same thing is true for women. I mean, if you're a viewer, a young viewer of Rocket League competitive, and you look at the pro players, and you think let's say you're a young lad, a young boy, and you look at all the Rocket League pros, and you see, wow, they're all just, young guys but older than me. Maybe that could be me one day. And you're going to load up Rocket League, and you're going to grind your heart out. You're going to live in free play and put in that work, and then maybe one day become a pro. Whereas for women, they might look at that and think, oh, it's all boys. Well, clearly that's not for me. And then they're going to look and try and take inspiration from something that looks a bit more like them and a bit more like what they could do in the future. Which is why it was so, it still is awesome to see people like Karma competing, being, pro level in multiple games, actually. Before she played Rocket League, she played Hearthstone competitive. That's awesome. So, yeah, that's why things like the women's only events are important, because then girls have something that they can watch and they can see women playing, and that is something that they can then look at and be inspired by. And if you don't have an issue with that, well, yeah, if you don't have an issue with that, it's the same principle that I'm talking about with. It's the exact same thing. Like when we're talking about having a diverse casting lineup, it's the same thing entirely. We're trying to create diversity so we can inspire as many people as possible. Because one of the best things that comes out of esports and that comes out of Rocket League is just how many people are inspired by it and how many people can be positively influenced by it. And having a more diverse talent roster just will give more people inspiration, will get more people into the game. So, for the same reason that we need women or women's only tournaments in Rocket League, so that there's something for all of the young people to watch and relate to, and there's something for women to compete at. That isn't going to be full of sexism, because I know that competing, if you're trying to make it through like 6-man's Discord, Ravina was telling me all about this on the same podcast, by the way. If you want to know about this, again, just watch that podcast. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's a very a good place to work your way through as a woman. Why can only women inspire women? It's not that like they can only be inspired by women. Not at all. But, I mean, who were you inspired by growing up? Most people are just inspired by people that they think, wow, I could do that. You know, it's why Ashley is so inspiring, and it's why Ashley is such a an important Rocket League player, because of what he can do with one hand. You know, every kid watching, well, you know, every kid who's born with one hand will probably look at Ashley and think, wow, that's incredible, I want to try that. Or, you know, as opposed to watching, you know, they might still be like a fan of other Rocket League players, but it's harder to look at what they're doing and think, yeah, I'm going to do that. And that's like a very obvious, you know, physical thing. But it's the same is true to a lesser degree for, you know, anyone who's like just trying to relate to people. You're just trying to relate, and you might want to just look, you know, people are just looking for somebody they can relate to. Yeah, Amanda Nunes is a inspiration for everyone. But didn't I swear that Dana White used to say that he would never have women competing in the UFC. Didn't he say that? I swear he said that like way back in the day. I swear I read this. If he didn't say it then, my bad. But I think he did. I think he said that women will never compete in the UFC. And now look, there's like massive pay-per-views, massive fan bases for these women fighters. And that wouldn't have happened had, you know, Dana White decided, hang on a second, this is actually not the right way to do this. And the UFC decide, wait, now we should be giving them opportunities. And then you realize, wait a minute, this is actually incredible. Whoa, we should have done this a long time ago. They should have just as much of an opportunity as the men do. But without actually giving them the first chance, this would never have happened. Like, you wouldn't have people like Amanda Nunes. It probably all goes back to Ronda Rousey in the UFC game. Because she was the first one to really become a superstar, wasn't she? It's separated from the males? Well, yeah, of course. It's a physical combat sport. But in Rocket League, people assume that just because it's a video game, you shouldn't have that, you know, women's only event because it's a video game. There is a lot of people complaining about the existence of a women's only event in RL. And they don't realize that the reason that happens is because you know, you got to start somewhere. You got to give women that opportunity. You got to give the women's only teams that opportunity to improve, and then they can build onto bigger things. And I'm sure one day we will see women competing at the highest level in Rocket League. We've already seen it in Karma, but we'll see it again, I'm sure. And the, you know, WCBC in Rocket League does a great job pioneering that alongside other orgs. Yeah, it's all kind of the same thing. Like, I really do think it's all kind of the same thing. The same reason that we need women's only events in Rocket League to give them opportunities so we can grow that scene. It's the same reason why we need to like prioritize diverse casting roles, diverse like you know, talent selections. It's the same reason. Well, see, like when you say nothing stopping women to start teaming right now and compete, I think you're totally wrong. There's a lot of things stopping women. Maybe stopping is too extreme, but there's a lot of things hindering women from just, as you say, what did you say? Teaming right now and competing. So let's just take those words. What is stopping women from teaming right now? Well, for a start, a lot of the, you know, Rocket League pro scene are sexist, unfortunately. And there's just no way that you're going to be able to survive in a team atmosphere if your teammates are sexist. So you're already Like, people won't even give you a chance. And I'm not talking about pro teams. Like, I'm not saying pro teams aren't going to give a low ranked girl a shot at their team. Well, of course not, because they're pros. There's a difference there. No, I'm talking about. I shouldn't have said pro. I mean like the bubble scene. You know, if you're trying to just make it, if you're trying to climb through the ranks, you're probably going to run into sexism left, right, and center. And how you're just going to tell me that you can just team? Oh yeah, just team. Like, there's so much sexism in that scene. And even if it's not on your team, maybe your team is great, there's still going to be so much sexism from opponents, and there's going to be so much sexism from, like, viewers. It is something very, very difficult to overcome. It is very, very difficult to overcome. So when you say there's nothing stopping women from just teaming up and competing, I think you're totally wrong. And I don't think you mean to... I don't think you're, you know... I think it's wrong to be wrong. I think it's quite normal to have that opinion. I think it's quite normal to look at esports and think, well, what's stopping women from holding the controller the same way a man does, or a boy does, and driving their car around? Well, not much physically. Not anything physically that I'm aware of. Don't think there's any differences or advantages. But it's all things like behind the scenes that makes it difficult. Just sexism and judgment left, right, and center. Like, I'm sure you all know, like, it's not a secret that many girls, many women will just play with no mic when they're in a game that requires microphone, or, you know, where microphone is possible. Obviously, Rocket League is not one of them, because it's a total meme how bad the Rocket League in-game voice chat is. But in games where using a microphone is possible, a lot of girls, a lot of women will just mute their mic, because as soon as they say anything, you're going to get one of two things happen. Either everybody in the whole lobby starts making sexist jokes, or everybody in the whole lobby starts hitting on you. Or both. Neither of those things are desirable. Neither of those things. And I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody would think that people making sexist jokes is a desirable thing. But I'm amazed at how many guys think that people showing you sexual interest and, like, just, you know, like, just flirting with you and giving you that kind of attention when you're just there to play a video game. You just want to go, you know, shoot some noobs in the head. You just want to go no scope some scrubs online, and now you got these people talking dirty to you and they all sound like they're 12 years old. Like, why would anybody want that? Why would anybody want that? So many people think, like, oh, it's a privilege to have so many, you know, people want you. And it's all projection, you know, people who get absolutely no interest from the opposite gender can't imagine a world where receiving interest is a bad thing. But trust me, it is. It is a bad thing. It is definitely a bad thing in that context. If you're a woman just trying to game. And yes, like Rook said, it's non-stop. It is absolutely non-stop. And it happens to, you know, girl and women streamers as well. Non-stop sexism in the chat. Non-stop people saying that they only get views because they're a girl. Which is also completely false, because most of the big streamers on Twitch are men. Most of the big streamers on Twitch are male. And most of the streamers on Twitch are male. Most of the streamers are, you know, are men. So, yeah, this idea that it's just easier to make it as a girl is so ridiculous. It's just completely false statistically. Most gamers are men, not by the same number as, like, I think I saw a statistic on this. I think it's like 52% of gamers are male or something. Like, everybody games these days. Everybody, almost everybody. So it's actually pretty close, like how many female and women gamers you get. Now, obviously, there's going to be different levels. I think men probably game more, but there's a lot of women in gaming, and there's not as much representation in esports. There's not as much representation in streaming. There's not as much representation in commentary for casting to match how many like actual gamers there are. You can grind ranked without revealing gender. So you think that all you need to do to go pro is grind ranked? You think that that's all it would take? Grind ranked? Yep. NRG are going to be knocking at your doorstep. They're going to be trying to sign you up. That's how you start a pro career. Just grind ranked. Now at some point you'd have to go through either 6-mans or you'd have to find a team and play tournaments. And you know, at some point you're gonna run into a lot of sexism if you're a woman. It's gonna happen. Hopefully we can see a decrease in that. "49% of women play a video game, but most of the daily gamers are male." Well, let me ask you a question, Twitch chat. Do you think there would be more women putting significant time into video games? Let's just say Rocket League. Let's just say Rocket League to make it more specific to this chat. Do you think more girls would play Rocket League if there was a women's RLCS as well? Do you think that if there was a women's RLCS, there would be more women playing Rocket League? Do you think that women would watch Rocket League or a women's RLCS and think, hey, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm going to try this game. Yeah, obviously. It's a no-brainer. Of course there would be. So, you know, going back to how this conversation started, do you think if there was more diversity in casting talent in Rocket League, that more, you know, people of color, more women, more people would try their hand at casting? I think, yeah, of course. Same answer. Yes. Of course they would. And the other thing that's important, it's not just about who you're going to inspire to actually take that hobby or take that career path. It's also just who are you reaching? Who are you impacting? How many people are being positively affected by the game and by the esport? By the casters, by the players, by the whole thing. How many people are getting a positive impact from this? If you have more diversity, more people get affected in a good way. And I've never had I've always had the experience that when you have more diversity, it's just way more interesting as well. I think it's just a better product, even for like the, you know, like I said before, I'm from the demographic that is overrepresented. I'm a white male. Now, if I watch a show that has less white men, less white male representation, and has more, you know, women, people of color, more diversity, in my experience, from what I prefer, I think it's usually better to have more diversity because you get interesting, you know, character clashes, and you get, I think, just more opinions, more discussions, just a better product from a broadcasting standpoint. Generally, I'm not saying like you can't do well with an entirely white male casting talent, because yeah, until Dazzler started casting RLCS, it was just all white male casting talent for Rocket League, and that's just because those are the guys who were around from the start. But why were they the guys that you're around from the start? Like, why do you guys in chat think that it was an all white male casting group that did it first? Why do you think it was all white male who did it first? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because we all watched other esports, and we thought, hey, that looks cool. I might try that. I used to watch League of Legends. I used to watch StarCraft 2. I know that the other casters watched other esports as well. We all watched other esports, and we all thought to ourselves, hey, that looks really fun. I'm going to try that. And it's because in other esports, there's not much diversity as well, or at least the older esports, there wasn't a lot of diversity. Obviously, there's some diversity, and I can't speak for all esports because I don't watch them all, but generally, there wasn't enough diversity in the beginning, so that in turn bred more the situations where there isn't a lot of diversity. And that, is our current situation. Not a lot of diversity, not a lot of women representation. And we can do something about that. That's what the whole point of affirmative action is. You try to overrepresent an underrepresented group to get back to the balance that we should be in. I haven't been able to catch up with all of what's happening in chat, by the way, so if I've missed something, then just type it again. I've probably missed a lot of questions. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Rook. Affirmative action doesn't really... The full benefits of affirmative action don't really show themselves until time has passed. And then, yeah, more iterations of that start to come through. But yeah, someone was asking earlier, so you would sacrifice, or you would, sacrifice ability for, or no, you would prioritize diversity over ability. I just say you just shoot for both. Just get both. Just get both. But it's different in a casting situation. It is the same problem exists in casting as it does for players, but it's a slightly different solution. The solution to why aren't there a lot of women pro players? Why aren't there a lot of women on the come up in Rocket League esports? Isn't to just randomly throw a woman into every RLCS team. It's not to make a 2/3 rule and 1/3 women rule. That wouldn't be the solution. The solution is to have women's only events and to put them out there for the community to see, which is why I was so happy to see the women's only event on the Rocket League channel. That was awesome. Massive props to Psyonix and the organizers. And I'm sure there's other solutions as well. I'm sure there's other things that can be done. But yeah, for casting, there are, very talented and very entertaining people in the scene already, so they just need to be given all they need to be, not all, I'm not saying they need to be given every event and given all the opportunities. They just need to be given opportunities, and they need to be helped in any way possible. I did see a few really cool tweets coming out from some people after the college carball debacle. People offering their services, offering to help anyone who's trying to make a name for themselves in the casting scene. It's really cool to see. And like I was saying earlier, I don't think that the casters deserve that at all. The casters are receiving a bunch of backlash just for being selected. Yeah, hunted, that's who it was, wasn't it? That was a cool tweet to see. Delagila Louis, thanks for the 9 quid. I appreciate that. You said thank you. I'm not sure why you're thanking me, but I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, a lot of talking points there. It's a very confusing topic, so like, you know, if you disagree with something I'm saying, or if I've disagreed with something you've said, that's an absolute guarantee when we're talking about things like this. But the important thing is to try and have a positive perspective and try and like just think about what it's like to be on the other side of the field, having to do things from a different start point. Don't know if I can hit this into the ceiling. I don't think I can. Trying to pop it into the ceiling and then catch it on the way back down. I've done it once today. I don't think I can do it on this shot. Yeah, exactly, FM Jones. I feel like I must have missed something here. I don't know. I've not read a lot of... I think the mods are just doing a pretty good job. I've not read a whole lot of like super toxicity right now. Hard to read chat when you're really bad mechanically and trying to flip reset. Doing your best, don't worry about it. I'm sure you're doing a great job. I mean, you are doing a great job. I've literally not read anything bad here. I mean, I'm sure there's been people writing dumb stuff, but it's just getting timed out before I can read it. Like, for the record, the only reason that we brought up or made a similarity between, you know, the female/male difference and then the diversity conversation, the only reason these two things exist side by side here is because the problem stems from the same place a lot of the time. But that doesn't mean that the same solutions apply to both. Like, no, you don't need to, you know. I mean, what are you saying? I've forgotten the message already. Exact wording is, do we need to apply the same rules to female or black dominated activities? I mean, no, we didn't bring up like diversity to talk about competitive esports. Like, you know, diversity in competitive esports is important, but that was more of a casting talent discussion.